FIFA's promotional materials for the 2026 World Cup emphasize a massive, inclusive celebration of the sport. But when you expand the field by 50%, the clean, traditional bracket explodes into a logistical nightmare. The core metrics of this expansion are staggering: 48 teams, 104 matches, a 39-day schedule operating across an enormous tri-national footprint in the United States, Canada, and Mexico. By comparison, the Qatar 2022 tournament featured 64 matches, confined to a single compact metropolitan radius. Teams slept in the same beds for a month, completely eliminating travel days between games. Adding 16 new teams creates a more football fallacy. The logistical burden does not scale linearly, it multiplies exponentially. More teams require more complex routing, fractured hosting clusters, and a massive increase in cross-continental flights. The 2026 format operates as a clinical stress test. The sheer volume of matches, combined with the geography, is mathematically guaranteed to push human physiology to mechanical failure. In the traditional 32-team format, the group stage was defined by immediate jeopardy. An opening round defeat triggered genuine panic, forcing heavy favorites to attack aggressively in their remaining matches to avoid early elimination. The new mathematical structure eliminates that pressure. The field is divided into 12 groups of 4, with the top 2 teams automatically advancing to the knockouts. But FIFA also installed a massive safety net to fill out the new round of 32. The 8 best third-place teams across the 12 groups will also survive the opening phase. Because 2/3 of the third-place finishers advance, the qualification threshold plummets. A single win against the weakest team in the group, paired with a neutral goal difference, mathematically secures a path to the knockouts. This expanded margin for error dictates how underdogs will approach the game. If a smaller nation is drawn against a powerhouse, escaping with a narrow loss or a scoreless draw is actively rewarded by the advancement math. The safety net strips the incentive to attack. Teams will optimize for survival, guaranteeing that the opening weeks of the tournament devolve into cautious, low-block football, where risk is mathematically punished. Advancing 8 third-place teams creates a severe structural problem. FIFA's tournament regulations rely on a complex protocol called Annex C to determine exactly who plays who in the knockout rounds. Because third-place qualifiers aren't known until the final group stage whistle, the system cannot generate immediate matchups. The bracket is stalled. The reality of Annex C is gridlock. Depending on which groups advance, there are 495 possible knockout combinations. This triggers a scenario of hotel purgatory. 8 group winners will finish their opening matches and remain trapped for days, completely blind to their next opponent or their next destination. That blindness halts the coaching staff. Analysts cannot prepare targeted tactical briefings, and logistics teams cannot finalize travel routines, sleep schedules, or recovery protocols. The latency embedded in Annex C acts as a hidden penalty. It strips the most successful teams of their structural advantage, sending them into the new round of 32 entirely underprepared. Surviving that round of 32 adds another physical toll. To lift the trophy, a team must now navigate an 8-match gauntlet, extending their exposure to injury and fatigue. FIFA clustered host cities to mitigate fatigue, but the footprint stretches 4,300 kilometers. Group C spans New Jersey, Boston, Philadelphia, Atlanta, and Miami. Morocco opens in New Jersey, flies to Boston, then Atlanta, a 1,400-mile scramble. Using the Haversine formula, we can map the peak travel burden. If Spain wins their group and reaches the final, they will log 12,500 kilometers in the air. Travel distance is no longer a passive background variable. In 2026, air miles act as an active, unequal competitive disadvantage baked directly into the draw. Most elite players competing in this tournament will arrive in North America having already logged 60 to 70 competitive matches for their European clubs. Their baseline condition is exhaustion. Congested fixture schedules severely impair muscle repair. When matches are separated by fewer than 72 hours, sprint mechanics degrade and biochemical markers for muscle damage remain elevated before the next opening whistle even blows. This map from FIFPro's player workload monitoring research shows the real threat. It identifies 6 host cities classified as extreme risk for heat-related illness. When you layer extreme weather onto accumulated travel fatigue, you create synergistic strain. When wet bulb globe temperatures exceed 26 degrees Celsius, physiological triggers initiate. The body diverts blood flow away from working muscles and toward the skin to shed heat, rapidly accelerating cardiovascular failure. The damage is not exclusively physical. Severe thermal stress pushes core temperatures into a range that impairs cognitive function, delaying reaction times and degrading split-second decision-making. High heat effectively destroys a player's ability to process and execute complex tactical instructions under pressure. Temperature is only half the environmental equation. Matches scheduled in Mexico City, particularly at Estadio Azteca, introduce the compounding threat of high altitude. At 2,240 meters above sea level, the partial pressure of oxygen drops. While sea level air provides 20.9%, Mexico City offers an unacclimatized athlete just 15%. This hypoxic environment restricts oxygen delivery to the muscles, artificially accelerating cardiovascular fatigue, forcing the heart to work significantly harder. Over a 90-minute window, players lose their repeated sprint ability. The brief recovery times between bursts of maximum exertion are no longer sufficient to clear lactic acid and restore muscle function. The overlapping demands of extreme heat, thin air, and continent-spanning flights systematically break the recovery windows required to play elite football. When human physiology fails, the tactical system must compensate. The physical realities of the 2026 format dictate exactly how teams must build their formations. This environment exposes the luxury player. For decades, teams could accommodate a focal point superstar who conserved energy by walking out of possession and declining to participate in defensive duties. FIFA's new 8-second goalkeeper distribution rule makes that approach obsolete. By forcing goalkeepers to release the ball rapidly, the rule mandates an immediate, high-tempo press to disrupt the transition. If one forward refuses to track back, the pressing chain snaps. The midfield cannot step forward without leaving massive gaps behind them. Carrying a static player means you are actively defending with 10 men. Surviving an 8-match gauntlet across 3 climate zones requires managers to discard individual brilliance in favor of strict, high-volume squad rotation. This is the era of system-based international managers. Coaches who demand rigid, cohesive units that press and retreat uniformly are uniquely positioned to withstand the physical decay of the tournament. The 2026 World Cup is a tri-national war of attrition. The trophy will not go to the team with the most recognizable face, but to the architects who can best manage the math of human breakdown.